guys, welcome back to another Q&A. It is August 23rd, 2019. Open Q&A this week, and a lot of questions, looks like, several questions. All right, so we'll start right off here. Why am I secretly your favorite client, and how do you hide it so well? And then there was a rebuttal from another client. See, I don't want to open up a can of worms here. I'm not gonna play favorites. Y'all are my favorite. I love all you guys. Although it is kind of funny watching everyone fight here. Next one. With your recent lab testing and seeing how long it's taken to recover from your prep, have you come up with ideas to help minimize the damage and or help speed up recovery after shows? Yeah, my answer was don't starve and get lean. Yeah, I mean the harsher the prep is, the harsher the recovery is going to be probably. So the harder someone has to push to get where they need to be, their recovery is probably going to be harder. I mean, that's just the reality of it. Recovery is not going to be the same for everyone. I mean, I have clients that they're back to quote unquote normal relatively quickly, and others it takes months and months for things to return to normal. That's just how it goes. Just because, like I said, the deeper the hole is that you dig, the harder it's going to be. Is there anything you can really do? No, I mean, there's not, other than not push as hard in the prep. But again, you're not going to yield the same, probably not going to yield the same result. I've tried short prep, or not short, but shorter, medium, long, to see, would that mitigate any damage? You always really end up in the same spot, more or less. And what things or variables people are trying to recover after a prep is also going to vary. So for me, it's more nervous system recovery, getting my nervous system back in check, getting my sleep normal, getting heart rate, HRV, like all those types of variables, getting those things normal. And that takes a long time for me to do sometimes. Not so much metabolically, like I recover that way relatively quickly. Even though I eat damn near nothing during the prep and do tons of cardio, I can reverse out of it pretty good. That's not really an issue. It's more so all the nervous system side of things. Whereas some people might be the opposite. Some people might recover quickly from a nervous system standpoint and may take a lot longer from nutritional or metabolic standpoint. So again, it's more of a person to person basis. It always helps to not drag out the recovery as long as you can, or a long time if possible. Get a little bit of body fat back on and get calories back up is usually going to help. Even from a nervous system standpoint, I mean, you're going to recover better in a good surplus than in a deficit, even though it's not like directly dictated by nutrition. So, man, there's not really a whole lot else. I mean, some supplements like adaptogenic herbs and doing therapy modalities, things like if you want to do like float therapy or getting massages and all that. I mean, any of that stuff's going to help. But again, it's not, whatever hole you dig into is what you got to dig back out of. So, all right. Efficacy of loaded stretching. I've noticed increased mind-muscle connection. Are there soft tissue benefits? I've heard conflicting data. Yeah, me too. I've heard different takes on it. Some of it, and not all of it's so much, data. It's just like kind of anecdotal or hearsay. Well, a couple things. It does. I think one of the things that people miss is they don't stretch long enough. So if you're going to do a loaded stretch, make sure you're stretching for at least, 45, 60 seconds or so. Like these 20-second stretches or 15 seconds, whatever. It's not really going to do anything. It takes longer to actually open up the tissue. So that would be one thing to keep in mind if you're going to do it. I mean, a lot of people notice like increased blood flow, like a nice blood rushing in type of feeling after they're done. And yeah, mind muscle connection would make sense as well. Now, is it going to stretch your fascia? And I doubt it. Probably not. So, but if it feels good and it feels you loosens up the tissue if you're stretching long enough and it helps with circulation, then yeah, I think it's great to do. I do add it to some programs for sure. All right. Low carb days and high volume of veggies that cause least amount of bloating, more person dependent usually, and would betaine HCl before this help as well as Morphodrive? Yeah, it's going to be person dependent. You know, some people don't do well with like the high FODMAP type vegetables and the more sugary type vegetables. Those tend to be the higher FODMAP anyhow. Or certain types of fibers even. But again, it's going to be pretty person dependent. So just eat what digests well with you. Eat what doesn't make you gassy and make you bloated. And watch your volume. You say high volume of veggies. Well, that might be too high a volume. I mean, no matter how well the food digests. I mean, if it's super complex and high volume, I mean, those fibers are already hard to digest, and some of them, like the insoluble fibers in there, aren't even digestible. So, you're gonna have a hard time with that bulk in your stomach trying to move it through, especially as the day goes on and that compounds more and more. You're gonna still have stuff left in your stomach when you're eating another meal. So, just even reduce the volume of vegetables, maybe. It's easy to get carried away with that. Would betaine help? Yeah, it might. Increasing stomach acid may help with that. It definitely seems to. With anything that's complex and hard to digest, especially very high protein diets, it definitely helps. Yeah, it could potentially help in this regard. Morphodrive? Well, maybe. Well, here's the thing. Like if your blood sugar is elevated and having a hard time bringing it back down on a low carb day, a lot of times people have more fats on these days too. That's normally more of a digestion issue because there's just too much overlap and there's circulating glucose or just things aren't absorbing quickly, or there's just a long gastric emptying time. I mean, it's normally just from slow digestion, not so much that you're eating too many carbs, if that makes sense. You could use the Morphodrive for sure. I mean, there are certain enzymes in there that'll help break down some of those more difficult to digest carbohydrates. So it's not going to hurt anything. It certainly may help, but I would venture to say a lot of that is digestion related. Any experience with Insositol for helping sleep through the night, and how does it work with this? So I have used Insositol before for sleep. Like I tend to use like a choline Insositol combination, I guess you could say. It does help. It can potentially help with some of the neurochemistry, like the neurotransmitter production, and have like a calming effect, I guess you could say. I know a lot of people think of B vitamins, because inositol is potentially a B vitamin compound. They think of them as like energy producing, which they are. They help with certain metabolic processes, but they can also have calming effects. So yeah, it can help. It's not going to be anything profound, honestly. Like if you're getting sufficient B vitamins and these nutrients in sufficient amounts during the day, is taking additional before bed going to make that much of a difference? Probably not. But if you aren't getting enough and you take it, then it might help, because you might potentially have some deficiency. So that's kind of what I would say about it. Now it's going to be, if you feel anything from it, it's going to be more like a calming effect, relaxing effect. So whether that helps you sleep through the night or not, I'm not sure. Probably not. That could be. There's a lot of things that dictate that as well. Certain like adrenal hormone patterns, waking you up in the middle of the night, stress, all of those things. And it doesn't have to be even stress during the day. If your adrenal patterns are just whacked out to where they're not secreting hormones in the right, in the right circadian, like with the right circadian patterns, then you can release hormones in the middle of the night that aren't really supposed to be there, and it wakes you up, and you might wake up with like an elevated heart rate, for example. So I mean, a lot of that isn't going to be fixed by a supplement. A lot of that's going to be fixed by getting rid of cumulative fatigue that's been there for too long, which will in turn fix like the underlying adrenal issues or whatever you have going on. Let's see. Wow, this is a long one. Doing a reverse diet and slowly increasing calories week to week, maybe 100, 150 each week, and having one untracked high day on Saturday and dropping 2 pounds a week after a long diet. Would you make a higher jump week to week, maybe add another high day, or stay the course entirety of the reverse diet? Dropping 2 pounds a week on a reverse diet with increased calories each week and decreased cardio to me seems fine, but I also feel that person should keep increasing more to stay ahead. Well, how much body fat, like if you're coming out of a show and you're already show lean and you're losing weight after in the reverse diet, you're not in a surplus, I mean, you're not in a surplus at all here, clearly, if you're losing, more fat or more weight. But if the person has more fat to lose and you can get them to lose fat in more upregulated state where you're adding calories, that's great. That's nothing wrong with that. But if your goal is to actually restore metabolic health and you're already lean enough and you're trying to get back into a calorie surplus, then you need to eat more. In some cases, people that start adapting upwards, you're really just chasing your tail when you're doing these small 100 to 150 increases each week. That might work really good for some people, and it might work later in the process when metabolism isn't increasing anymore. But initially, there are people that are going to need larger increases off the bat, So instead of just increasing a little bit each time and essentially getting nowhere or backpedaling, you can do larger increases till you hit that metabolic ceiling, and then maybe slow it down from there. We did a whole episode on this on the Mind Body broadcast. It was one of the very first episodes on reverse dieting or post show or whatever you want to call it. And to me, if you're truly trying to restore metabolic health and get into a surplus and grow or whatever, this is way too slow, because if you're losing weight, it's just not enough. You probably need to make larger increases, at least here initially, until things level off and the weight starts going up. And then maybe you can slow it down. But yeah, you might need 500 calories. You know what I mean? Like, it's just really going to depend on the person. Like after my show, it really varied all the time. I just increased as I needed to. Some weeks was more than others. Some days, sometimes it was like every few days. Sometimes it was like a couple weeks apart. Really just depended on what I saw. But a lot of times I would make really little increases. It wouldn't do a whole lot. So I would need to make larger ones. Oh, excuse me. What? Yeah, that's kind of my take on it. You can go back and listen to that episode. We pretty much go over all the different scenarios. All right. Next one. Do you cycle Clen? How do you know when to increase dosage? How far up as max would you push? Taper to come off, etc. Okay. Well, there's been lots of questions on this common one, but real briefly, doesn't need cycled. There is no downregulation in its effects. Yeah, you might not feel it, but that doesn't mean it's not working. Increased dosage. Just if you have a max dose, just increase as tolerated, depending on side effects, like depending on how the person feels, they just increase as tolerated until they hit that dose. It might be 20 mcg per day or per every few days or every week or whatever, however long it takes before they can hit that max dose in a tolerable fashion. Max, I mean, there's gonna be all over the board. You know, the typicals, maybe 100, 120. People are doing really good with 80. Just leave it at 80. I mean, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to do 200 or whatever, but you could certainly go higher. Like some of the actual literature on it where they've used it in medical community, like if there's been crazy high doses, way higher than what a lot of people are using it for fat loss. So, but your 100, 120 is typical. Taper to come off. You could. I mean, you don't have to. You could. That's really dependent on like all the other variables, like what's happening with cardio, what's happening with nutrition, what's happening. You know, you don't want to, if someone's coming out of a harsh deficit phase and they're taking a bunch of fat loss supplements and doing a bunch of cardio and eating or not eating much food, and then you all of a sudden just flip the script on everything, dump all the fat loss stuff. So, I mean, they're gonna get fat probably, or be in like a giant surplus like really, really quick. So that would just totally depend on what all the other variables are. All right, over to Facebook. I've got a couple more here. From your experience, is there any place for smelling salts within bodybuilding, focused training methods, or would any potential side effects to the body's system, such as CNS, be enough to warrant avoiding it altogether? My gym is literally littered with bottles and snapped capsules of this shit. Yeah, I mean, you could. It's still going to have the same excitatory effect before a set if you wanted to use it. Really depends on the person. Like I've done it. Like I don't like to do it because I don't have a problem getting amped up. And secondly, I already have issues with burning out my CNS on training sessions anyhow. So it's just not a good idea. Because I would be smelling that shit all the time, and yeah, it wouldn't help me. It would end up hurting me more than anything. But yeah, I mean, it's gonna have the same type of effect if you want to use it to get amped up for a set here and there. But again, it should probably really just depend on like your overall CNS health or nervous system health on all fronts and how you would incorporate it. But typically, bodybuilders doing more volume and stuff, so I wouldn't be like hitting that damn thing like the whole workout. It's probably not a good idea. It's why it's typically not something I really suggest. All right. I thought there was another one. Is it acceptable to fart at the bottom of an 800-pound leg press? Yes. You have to have a minimum of 600 pounds on a leg press. Anything beyond that, you can fart at any point during eccentric or concentric movement. It's perfectly fine. If the weight's lighter than that, you have no farting privileges whatsoever. You gotta have more weight. All right. How long after running a cycle or doing a show should someone come off with proper PCT therapy to get their receptors cleaned out? And is it dependent on how long the cycle was or prep? Well, okay, well, you're going to hear mixed opinions on PCT in general. So that is if you can even do PCT and recover well. I'm just not really a fan. If people are going to indulge in that type of supplementation, then they should just probably accept the fact that they're going to need to be on. And that might just mean coming down to a replacement dosage that keeps you in normal physiological range. But PCT is such a roller coaster, and a lot of people don't recover very well, and it does more harm than good a lot of the time. So don't really want to get into that topic. It's been hammered to death. As far as the receptor thing goes, the downregulation of receptors isn't really a thing like people think it is. I've really not seen any literature to really point towards that. And a perfect example would be like, I don't know, TRT, people that have been doing it for years and years and years, and they still have the same range, they still have the same testosterone level as they did, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, or whatever, without changing dose. So the whole receptor thing isn't really, is really overblown, and it's more so getting health markers back to normal. And is that dependent on how long the cycle was or prep? Well, that would be part of it. Yeah. Like, how crashed are you? How messed up are your health markers, and how long is it going to recover? And like I've talked about a million times, you don't want to just have your lipids and kidney markers and liver or whatever you're looking at be fine for a week and then go back on. You want it to be good for an extended period of time, more so than it is bad, more good than bad. So I'm not going to go into that one, because the whole PCT thing is a whole different topic. That's going to be like a different video. But anywho, okay, guys, this was longer than I wanted anyhow, so we're going to cut it here, and I will talk to you guys next time.